Welcome to episode 17 of WAM, but first I have a very special announcement. WAM has officially become a global brand. That's right, WAM is now known across the globe, all the way to the UK, Austria, Ireland, and even the Cayman Islands. Now, there is one thing I want to say. I'm looking at our demographics here. Of course, we do have a 89% in the United States, 8% in the United Kingdom, but Austria, Ireland, and the Cayman Islands all are going under 10%. I'm not saying I'm disappointed. I'm just saying you should be scared for yourselves.
Happy Halloween. We watched Five Nights at Freddy's.
This movie sucked. In a quote that I think perfectly kind of sums up this movie in a nice little bow. It was at the very start, I think the first 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's from Matthew Lillard, whatever,
Lillard.
Shaggy.
Yeah.
He says, full disclosure, it's not great. High turnover, that's what we call it in the business. That just tells you everything you need to know about this movie. So this movie, obviously Five Nights at Freddy's, it was rated PG-13. It came out, I guess today, the 27th.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, would we classify this as a kids movie?
Yeah, this is a kids movie. I mean, there's some basic horror to it, but at the end of the day, it's so it's very, very toned down from what we imagine a real horror movie.
It was very obviously they wrote the script with curse words and then later were like, oh, we can't do that, and then just replaced them with like the good version.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people have said it was rated R, they made it PG-13 and people were disappointed, and like Jason Blum and a lot of the other people involved were like, we're very happy with how it turned out being PG-13. I'm not.
Yeah. I think it held back this movie extremely.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that held this back.
Yeah. I think that first of all, this movie is set in of course, it's going after the Five Nights at Freddy's games, that whole franchise that was launched in 2010, 2012, something like that, years ago. I think there's 6 or maybe it's 8 now. I don't know, something like that. There's a lot of games.
There has to be at least 12. I'm not going to lie. There are a ton of spin-off games too.
That's true. And a whole book series, 2 book series, I think.
Mm-hmm. And wasn't there male impregnation in one of them?
Yeah, there was.
I'm just making sure you knew.
No, yeah, it's bookmarked. I think that this movie, so they did it after Five Nights at Freddy's 1, with those modeled characters and the very 80s style animatronic Chuck E. Cheese, early Chuck E. Cheese looking characters.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big wrong move. They really shouldn't have done that.
I'll agree with that. The original character models are iconic, but not because they're the scariest ones, but because those are the ones that got put in the source filmmaker. And now whenever I see them, I just think of memes online. That's my bias, obviously. But
those they could have started it all. And so they're just they're what people know, but it's not movie sake. It doesn't help your horror aspect at all.
Yeah, I would have imagined they would do some sort of redesign, especially since they had the Henson Corporation make the costumes.
Yeah, the costumes, a lot of the times I was having trouble figuring out if the animatronics if it was a proper physical costume or if it was CG'd, because obviously stuff like that little cupcake was CG'd almost every time.
Yeah, I think every time, man.
Yeah, it was bad.
I just don't get so a big part of Five Nights at Freddy's is the idea that these animatronics are being sort of hosted by ghosts, and are hunting down the security guard. And that makes sense because there's a dead kid for every animatronic, but then there's just this cupcake that attacks people. This animatronic cupcake, weird idea, that throws itself with no force everywhere, and it doesn't have anything haunting it. It's just it's just a thing
attached to the Chica one. They're just a hand-in-hand deal.
Okay, so whoever is haunting Chica is cupcake. 2 things. Okay, that makes sense.
But them using that first game, Five Nights at Freddy's models and stuff, being the big, cuddly, fluffy, bulbous animatronics just isn't very menacing when you're seeing them move like normal people, and they're way too fluid when they do move.
Mm-hmm.
When they're just walking like in a straight line, they do fine. But whenever they
Yeah.
turn their head or something, they'll turn their head but then look up at an angle or something that's just a little bit too fluid for like a robot to be doing.
Mm.
And I think in segments like that, it would have really benefited if they lowered the amount you see the animatronics actually move
And they pop
and
up.
increase like the rigidity in them. I think it would
Mm.
have like really helped the, and then like at the end Freddy can like sprint or some shit. I don't know.
I mean, I think that
Um
is important.
yeah.
Especially since like that's what happens in the original series. The
Yeah, in the
horror is
first game
like
you don't
they
see anyone move besides Foxy. That's it.
yeah, Foxy moves. Yeah, I mean, I think they do a lot. I think they have to do a lot with showing the movement and all this because obviously they finally got like real models and they want to put them to good use. But I think how these characters move and overall the portrayal of the animatronics is lame. Um, I don't know. I think the lore that's associated with all of this series is deeply holding down what could have been a very interesting horror movie because they can't like be creative with it. They're held down by like years of lore that have turned all of these characters into what just originally was scary things into like this complex story that like is very gray and like has them being good at some points and bad at other points and like victims and like murderers. And I don't care. I want to see horror.
Yeah, they I think this script was written years and years ago. I think this
Mm-hmm.
this was written like when Five Nights at Freddy's like 3 was being like made kind of thing.
I do
Um
agree. It's been in development hell for a while. Do you
yeah,
remember like when they first like announced that this was being a movie?
nope, that's the problem.
I think it was
Um
FNAF 4. I,
I have
the
no
one where
idea.
he's like in the children's room.
I got no clue.
Mm.
Um I don't know what my thought was, but sick.
You know what I'm really tired of them doing?
Hmm.
Ripping off indie horror movies to make these kinds of movies. Like I don't know. I don't know if you noticed this, but it took a lot of stuff from Willy's Wonderland, which I thought was really messed up.
Never seen that.
We watched it together. The
Don't
Nick Cage
remember.
movie where he's a security guard and he has to fight off animatronics.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did watch that. Man, you could
I,
have you could have shown me that again. I wouldn't have remembered.
it's not a great movie. I would argue I enjoyed it a little bit more than this. Just because it
Yeah,
follows a better horror timeline and also Nick Cage is in it.
that's fair. But into the actual movie. So the start, we have intro credits. What fucking year? Like, when's the
Yeah.
last time you've seen intro credits for something? Like, are they that proud of this movie that they really want to put their name in the front of it for like 2 minutes? Like, come on, it's not that good.
Yeah, I mean, front facing, maybe they just wanted to make sure you saw the credits before people walked out. I'm not sure. Around that time, though, I saw someone in my audience turn on their flash and take a photo of when it said Five Nights at Freddy's.
Well, yeah, I think the idea of this being a video game turned into a movie is obviously just is an interesting concept. That aspect of it is really cool.
Yeah, I think this sort of carries the curse though of like you're not going to make a great video game movie. I think the only ones that like are agreed to have bypassed this are Sonic and Mario.
I don't know. That's so opinionated.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking. Are
I
you
don't. I
telling
haven't.
me you
I
have
saw
a
Mario. I didn't see Sonic. Mario's so malleable, though. You can't really be like, that's not what Mario would do. Mario has an MD. We see fucking Hunger Games boy wake up with like a some Sony
that's
clock, and I have the same exact clock in my garage. And then he just wakes up, he goes talk to his little sister who he's taking care of,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's really just like that little breakfast scene, and then he's over at work at a mall where he's a security guard. He's talking to
Yeah.
his friend about this book that he's been reading about dream theory, where he's
Mm.
like, everything you ever see or like is always, it's going to be imprinted in your mind forever, and you can never really forget it. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then he sees a man dragging a kid away. He thinks the kid's being abducted. He sprints over like goddamn Captain America,
And he
tackles the man down into a fountain, and beats him senseless in front of his kid, who is like
scarred.
emotionlessly screaming, "Daddy,
Daddy.
no!" Like standing with his arms at his side, like just watching his father get beaten in the fountain.
What
Um, of
I
course he gets fired, but what?
I love how they portray it. Okay, so like if you want to see like okay, we have to show that he has like an emotion problem, especially about kids being kidnapped, and we have to get him fired from the job. That's what has to happen in this scene. I
Mhm.
love how their first choice isn't okay, let's escalate things from a misunderstanding, and we could sort of like have our character be shown to have like a vulnerable side in that. It's instantly no, run after him, beat the shit out of him.
No, yeah. We went from fucking 0 to 100 immediately, and that's kind of a problem I also noticed with a lot of these characters.
Mm,
Um,
I'll agree with that.
yeah, I'll kinda get to that though.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, whatever. He gets fired from this job, and then he goes to a career therapist, or is that what it's called? Counselor.
Career
Career counselor.
counselor, yeah.
Um, career therapist. Well, how does your job make you feel?
That's called
Uh,
HR, pal.
yeah. Um, so he goes to this career counselor, and then the career counselor is
Mhm.
Shaggy. He gives the
Mm.
quote, and he's like, "Listen, man, because you've
So the
been
Five
fired from
Nights at
so many
Freddy's, man.
places, that too, because you've been fired from so many places in such a quick amount of time, your options for jobs are extremely limited, and also
Mhm.
because you just beat a man senseless in front of a child in the mall in a fountain. But I got one thing for you." And he's like, "I can't do night shift." And so he just says no
He
and
says no to
leaves without a
Freddy's.
job. So he
Mhm.
what did he gain from this whole interaction here? Um, but he's like, "Yeah, whatever, forget it." Takes his card, goes home. Fuck.
And then he goes and he meets with his sister, uh, who wait, he either goes and meets with his sister who's like, I don't want to eat, I want to talk with my friends, which is weird and will be delved upon later in the story. What a weird thing to include. Or he goes and he talks to his aunt, who is currently trying to fight a custody battle to get his sister. Uh,
Mhm.
the main reason he wants a job is strictly so that he can support his sister and also prove that he can keep her because he wants to keep
Like
his
as a
sister.
guardian, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Um,
What happened to his parents again?
I have no idea.
I don't.
Zero clue.
Yeah, they
I
don't
don't
really
know if they
delve on
really
it.
say anything about it or if they touch on it or if they're just gone or what. But
It is what it is.
yeah, we could have just missed it. Let's be real. Um,
I don't know about you, man, but my full attention was on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and not the
yeah,
bowl of wings I was devouring.
that's the problem with eating at the thing. You're distracted.
I think I was doing okay. I just was really enjoying some wings.
This is fair. Yeah. So their aunt wants to get custody over the girl. She's like a really stereotypical like Karen, like, "Are you gaslighting me?" kind of personality, like, not even a little bit, it's just that's just what her character is,
Yeah.
and when we're introduced to her, it's just she's immediately yelling, at this other, like, I guess his, like, lawyer or just the whatever, like, child services lady,
Yeah.
um she's just when we're first introduced to her, she's just yelling and being an ass. Um, and so I understand we're not supposed to like her, but that's not how humans work. And so many
Man,
interactions in this movie are just not. they're not how humans would talk. It's
They are
just
not.
like, information. Oh, response. Oh, information. Oh, response.
I think
And
the
that's
the
it.
the worst contender for this we haven't seen yet, but the police officer I think has the
Yeah,
worst
she's
written
the
dialogue.
worst. But
Incredibly
the
bad.
aunt starts fake crying in the office, and while bringing up the fact that he just beat a man in a fountain, starts fake crying, and she's like, "That's why I have to do this. You forced my hand." And then she has her poor lawyer Doug, who looks so scared and so
He's
precious.
always so scared.
Um, I would be too. But he has some like custody papers to switch over the custody, and she says if he doesn't sign the papers, Michael, then he's gonna be sued. And quote, she says, "I'm gonna make sure you never see your sister ever again in your life." What the fuck? Like,
And why does
what kind of family member is this? He's not that bad.
I think I think the funniest part is like there's a one-off line right after this where where and I just realized that he was from the Hunger Games. I was wondering where he was from this whole time. There's this line where it's like she doesn't even want like my sister. She just wants the money from it. If you can afford like a lawyer and she hires like other people to help with this, that's a lot of effort to be going in for like, you know, child money. Are we really
Yeah,
Is that really a fair argument here? It seems as if we're portraying her as someone who is a little rich.
I don't know. She could just be wasteful. Um,
She's living paycheck to paycheck, but
yeah,
also
you don't
paying
know.
this really big lawyer.
Yeah, while also having like this leopard print looking ass like coat on. Yeah. Um,
It's all about looks.
it is. It's all about appearance. And so then through this all, then afterwards, our main guy Michael is talking to or no, it's a teacher. It's not a counselor. It's a teacher at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is talking to a teacher, and we get a lot of emphasis on the power of pictures. Pictures mean a lot to children. Before we
Hmm.
can talk, it's the only way we can communicate. What? These children are 9 and 10? They can talk for years? Fuck you. It's how they communicate. And it's like a good like 3-minute scene just about the power of pictures. They really want to hammer it home because the little girl just keeps drawing pictures
She just
all the
loves.
time, and the aunt says it's a mental illness. um
I
yeah.
setup in this is
Hmm.
horrible,
Yeah, the setup in
incredibly bad.
this movie had all the story beats of a proper movie, and it does check all the boxes by a technicality. But it's in the same way where it's like a high school student can get all the boxes checked and throw it together, but it's not going to be good. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
The worst part I think is they always went with tell not show. Never
Yeah.
are we given information visually. Never
Mm,
are we given information that isn't just hammered in dialogue. Even
yeah.
when we go to like further sequences when like there are big twists, we don't necessarily have any cues for it. We literally just have Michael just say the line out loud without
Hmm.
any precursor for it, and
Yeah.
he doesn't even react as if it's a shock to him. He's just like, "Oh, so this is happening."
Yeah. He's like, oh, well, too late now. Um, and so after that whole meeting with the teacher, he's like, "Man, I really got to show up for this little girl. I
My
kept
little
thinking it was his
girly.
daughter for like half
Yeah.
the movie. Um,
The,
for my little sister, I guess.
uh-huh.
I think it was supposed to be his daughter, I swear.
It
Um,
sort of felt like it, especially since like there's such a gigantic gap. She's like
mhm.
in the first grade, maybe younger, and
Yeah.
he's at least 25, probably 29. Like, and we're supposed to believe the parents are dead or something. That
Yeah,
was
or like
very recent
yeah,
then.
I have no idea. I really couldn't I kept trying to figure it out through the movie. I had no idea where the parents were because if they were just on vacation or something, then he wouldn't be having these financial troubles to like this extent.
No, I
and to
think
the
they're
point where
dead.
his aunt wants custody. And if
Yeah.
he has custody, then I guess his parents have to be out of the picture. So like
Oh,
where I don't know. Um,
yeah.
but he accepts the Freddy Fazbear job,
Hey
goes there the
bear.
first night, and then he calls the boy, he calls the counselor man back, Shaggy, gives him the rundown. He's like, there's security cameras, the power's kind of iffy, just chill here overnight, make sure no one breaks in. That's it. Place has been closed for years. You know, the guy just keeps it around because he's kind of sentimental, I guess. And then he does a little silly laugh, and like Shaggy kind of peeks through when he does the laugh. It's really funny.
I did hear that.
Um, and
He
I
was
mean,
also
yeah,
he was in Scream, right?
yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't like that character at all though, which was I think a little disappointing. The first night at Freddy's, and do you want me to let me
Yeah,
give
you
you
can go
my
for it.
rundown of everything that happens?
Yeah, go
He
for it.
falls asleep and he wakes up and it's 6 a.m.
That was hard. You know, paycheck earned, clock in, clock out. Hey, man.
Dream job, really. Oh,
Um,
but he had a dream. He had a
yeah,
dream.
he did have a dream. Now,
Martin had a dream.
one thing that we failed to mention up until now, is that our main character Michael is constantly having a nightmare almost every
Yeah.
night. And so that's why he's reading that stupid dream book. Is that so when his little brother got kidnapped when he was a child, he was like about 12, and he saw like the guy basically drive away with the kid in the back of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to remember what the man looked like in his dream. And so every night he goes into his dream and tries to relive it and remember what he looked like, looking for details every single night. And
Yeah.
he's like popping sleeping pills and all that. And so that's like constantly the like undertone of kind of his personal motivation through this
Mm-hmm.
movie is he wants to solve and find his brother.
Can I if your whole thing is about like memorizing things that you like would have seen when you were a kid
Yeah.
and it's in a car,
Yeah.
cars have this really neat feature that I've always loved where there's like a plate on it with specific numbers that tell
No.
you
No. I don't think you're being truthful.
I
I
made
think
that
you're
up.
fibbing.
You caught me. I'm sorry. I thought I could get away with it on the show,
Yeah.
but our fact checkers are over there saying I'm making it up.
I don't know why they never said why he said I saw what he looked like. He couldn't just be like, I want to see the license plate numbers. Whatever. Even he's like, I want to see what he looks like, and later on we do get a reveal that we'll get to.
Yeah.
We don't ever see the actual person. We just keep seeing the same clip played over and over again of this car driving away
Yeah.
from us, and we see him in this dream sequence running up to the car and the car driving away
And
probably
then
about 6 or 7 times.
mm-hmm.
And that's like each scene has something slightly different, but I'm still seeing him sprinting in the woods 6 or 7 times, screaming, "No, stop!"
And then right as our sequence ends, we sort of see the first thing that goes different this night. We
mm,
see right behind him is 5 little kids in various assorted clothing that matches animatronic clothing. And then they're all just standing there looking at him, and he's like, "Hey, who are you guys?" And they all scatter and they all just start running away from each other.
they fucking
And
book it.
and the first thought he has is, "Oh, I need to chase this kid." And then he's like, come here, you little fucker. And he's
Mhm.
chasing after him, and he trips on a rock and he hits his head, and then he wakes up and boom, 6 a.m.
Yeah, easy. And so it's just really quick through that night. He goes home and he's like, and his babysitter that's been watching
Mm-hmm.
his sister, is like, how was it? He's like, it's whatever. Um, And then later on, right after that, we see the babysitter now at a diner with the
Mm-hmm.
aunt, and
Yep.
they're talking about they had a deal where the aunt had hired this babysitter to go and dig through his trash and his house and try to find anything to like dig up dirt on him to figure out he's like a
Mm-hmm.
bad person and not fit to like raise this child, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get a fantastic cameo. I'm gonna let Nolan tell you about it, but
Matthew Patrick was in this
Mhm.
movie.
Mr. Game Theory.
Yeah, Mr. Game Theory, Matt Pat. He had gone on a whole internet spree talking about how pissed he was that they didn't invite him on, but they did invite Markiplier, who couldn't make it because he was filming Iron Lung at the time. But I was convinced that he was like actually throwing a pissy fit, because I wouldn't I wouldn't say he wouldn't. It seems like something he would do, but no, he's in the diner and he's sort of like this waiter, and he explicitly goes, some people say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but that's only a theory. I wanted it to die. I wanted to die in that theater. Here, this is the number one thing with all of the dialogue. It has no purpose. It's not reacting to another person. It's just, okay, well, we want him to say this, and we don't care about if it fits or not.
Well, he's a waiter, and he has a channel called Food Theory.
Did he say he had a channel called Food Theory? I didn't hear that part.
He does have a channel called Food Theory.
Oh yeah. I mean, in real life, he does have a channel called Food Theory. Movie Theory. There's some other ones. There's a lot of theories. I think
like one of his first videos was like, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day.
Oh, really?
Is what they were referencing, I think.
Oh, that's neat. I guess that's more effort into it than I thought it was. But yeah, I wish he died a violent death in that movie.
No, not Matt Pat.
Why?
I think they totally could have used him more though. He totally could have been like a Five Nights at Freddy's like conspiracy theorist, because these murders aren't like a secret.
Yeah,
everyone knows kids were murdered here in the 80s and it shut down after.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could have fit in like fine. It could have just been a one-off for him just being like some homeless man like shouting it on the street or something. It doesn't matter. It would have worked fine. Like Matt Pat with the good like fake beard glued on, just like on the side of the sidewalk with like fingerless gloves. You know what I'm talking about? It'd be so good.
That would be pretty good. I feel like that would be pushing the limits on like what a cameo could be, though. I don't know. For cameo reference, I think they took in stuff from like maybe Matt Murdock's appearance in No Way Home. It felt sort of like that, but more disconnected. I think disconnected is the best way you could do a cameo for this, but I would do it where you don't reference that you're from something else. That's my opinion, though. I imagine you have a different opinion. Here's the thing. I mean,
yeah, if you try to take some inspiration from, those newer Spider-Man movies, you're going to get something bad like this, which is just really the truth. That's just the truth about the last three.
I liked Homecoming.
You're allowed to. That's okay. So after the Dream Kids, he gets back in a dream the second night. He falls asleep. Runs after the kids again, catches up to one of them, grabs him, turns him around. The kid slashes his arm with a pirate hook that Foxy has. It cuts his arm in real life and in the dream. If you die in the dream, you die in real life. Which is exactly what was happening, which is just funny. I wish they said it. It would have been so good. But and then he grabs the kid, it slices his arm, he's like, ow. He looks back at the kid, he screams at him, and the kid's eyes turn into black goop, and then he wakes up.
And somebody is ringing the doorbell at the pizzeria, and it's a woman. It's a woman named Vanessa.
It's a lady cop.
It's a lady cop. She was the best part of this movie. Don't you agree, Nick?
She sure was a part. I don't. So the lady cop introduced herself. She's like, I'm just making the rounds, whatever. I like to stay informed, and I used to really like this place as a kid. Whatever, cool.
Yeah.
And then she's like, hey, your arm is bleeding, and she goes in, helps him patch it up. And then immediately after patching up his arm, she's like, so what's going on? Your heart rate's really high and your eyes are bloodshot and that wound, which the wound is understandable, but the heart rate and everything else would go alongside said wound. And then she went, and you've been acting suspicious ever since you opened the door. You showed up out of fucking nowhere in the middle of the night for this guy. It's like his second night on the shift.
More importantly, this might be a little bit of like going ahead, but this is a problem I had the entire time. we're led to believe that she has information on a lot of the stuff that's happening inside of here in small amounts, and we're only ever told that she knows it as our main character like learns it independently, and then she goes, "Oh, you didn't know that? What, you an idiot?" And
What
I
are you, a
like
dummy?
I love the idea where like he has an obvious slash on his arm from like the
Mhm.
dream sequence, and she's
Yeah.
just like, "Man, that's really suspicious of you. That literally couldn't have happened any other way. Anyway,
Yeah.
I know
Mm.
everything about this place."
Yeah. What's going on? Is your mental health okay?
Just gaslighting him for the fun of it.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is he? What do you think is happening right now inside of that pizzeria? Um, so yeah, she starts grilling him, whatever. After that little session of him, like her grilling him, she
Yeah.
completely drops it. She has no more suspicions whatsoever, and he is completely safe in her eyes.
Yeah, they do. They turn on the animatronics, which is the first time we really get to see them. Uh, this is us just sort of seeing them in a normal situation. They're just moving around, having a fun time, singing an '80s song. I like that '80s song. The I hear the secrets that you keep when you're lying in your sleep. Sing it with me. I hear the secrets that you. Nick, I said. Nick.
They didn't use that sound once in this movie.
They well, no, they didn't. Yeah,
In
you're
the
right.
credits,
They did in the credits because can I say what the credits are?
the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's song.
Well, yeah, the parody song by the Living Tombstone for the first movie. They actually like used that as the end credit song. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it sure was.
Are you gonna do this right now? I've been holding. I have. We. Not even gonna finish the bit. You're not good enough for it.
Good enough. Um. So yeah, he does that whole whatever night 2 with Vanessa. They start to kind of flirt. Where then she's
I
like, "Oh, do you want to
guess.
dance?" And then the animatronics all shut down, or she's just weirdly nice, I guess. Um. And
That
then
line is the
whatever.
worst.
Yeah, and then shift ends, goes home. And the babysitter's the next day, the babysitter's like boyfriend and his boys go through the Five Nights at Freddy's place, ransack it, try to mess it up because the aunt wants him to do that to get him fired so she can get
Yeah.
custody. They go through, fuck shit up, all get murdered with some really bad effects.
Wait,
The
can we?
babysitter comes in to be like, "What's going on?" And then she gets chopped in half with no blood.
This is the first time we see the true, like, oh, this is the real horror of it. And this is the most murder we really see because this
Yeah.
movie has a very low death count. Um,
Yeah.
this is the only time that you could ever say, like, they went, like, balls to the wall. And it was really disappointing.
Yeah, that's the part where I was saying, so when that bigger guy went into the broom closet and he like locked himself in there with Bonnie and then got killed,
Hmm.
did the bloody handprint on the window thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Bonnie walked out really stiff and it was fine. And then
Hmm.
as soon as they turned their head and their body, it was just straight up like just a human turn, like someone turning a pole. And
Hmm.
it just doesn't like at that, it just took it all out of for me.
Yeah.
Like
Uh,
I wasn't any intimidation that I had about this giant robot, like this giant cold machine killing something or killing someone
hmm.
was immediately taken away because it just didn't look like a machine anymore. It just looked like a big ass puppet.
Yeah, I mean, I think they really should have focused more on making these all animatronic. Foxy was fully animatronic
Mhm.
because you just couldn't fit a person inside of there.
Yeah.
But Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie, those were all real people. And I think they should have gone full animatronic just because it's much harder for a human to pull that off because you do look like a Chuck E. Cheese character. Completely you look like a
Mhm.
Chuck E. Cheese character, but Chuck
Yeah.
E. Cheese characters were not robots. They were people.
No. And I do understand to a degree, like in what I said before with I think they should have had the animatronics moving a lot less.
Mhm.
In a horror movie, we need to see them moving in some degree.
But
But
Chucky fashion.
yeah, like a weeping angel, whatever. Yeah, like Chucky.
Yes.
Just when it'll move when you're not looking at it, but as soon as you do, it's like stone staying exactly how it was. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would have been great, and then maybe towards the peak and the end of the movie, then they could have gotten more mobile, more active, more like desperate in doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they just didn't have that, and any stakes that we did get with the animatronics were completely dissolved in, I guess it was night 4 or so.
Yeah,
Night
yeah.
4, where our main character Michael brings his sister along because the babysitter is now missing. She's dead. Um,
I think.
and
Wait,
so
the
yeah,
first time she comes, I think it's night 3, right?
well it's because it's after the babysitter's dead.
So night 3 is when the thing first comes along. One
Yeah,
note to keep in mind: it's night. We just went through nights 1 and 2, and so far there's been no like mortal danger to our main character Michael inside of the
no,
Five Nights at Freddy's restaurant by the animatronics. I think this is the
we're
Scott
about 40
Cawthon.
minutes in.
Yeah, this is Scott Cawthon like legitimately taking the dumbest complaint from Five Nights at Freddy's to heart. Why didn't he just not show up for day 2? The whole thing is sort of set up around, hey, we're gonna like make the tenseness and the stakes a lot lower, just so it makes sense that he'd show up for the like
For the
next
next
night
night.
instead
Yeah.
of just thinking of a better reason to do it.
Hmm.
And I think that's a real hit this movie takes because
Yeah,
now there's
it's
no
a cop
stakes.
out.
Yeah.
Um, and like the stakes are only like I hope these characters get out alive. There's no like goal for them outside of that.
I don't know about you, man, but I was shaking the whole time thinking, oh my God, they're going to lose this custody battle.
I hope she can draw later. Um,
How is she doing in her classes?
exactly. So he takes his little sister into work. Horrible idea. Um, into
Yeah.
this place where he just learned where like kids got murdered. Whatever. Um, takes her there. She sets up a little tent, and then one of the like animatronics walks into the room and like lures her away, and they like play
Mm-hmm.
with her, and they become friends.
Mm.
What the fuck?
Yeah, there's right after this, there's this whole scene where he has a dream, and then Michael wakes up and he's like, "Oh my God, my sister's missing," and then she's just talking with all the animatronics who are not like just like doing their like electric dance or anything. They're just
Yeah,
straight up alive,
they're hanging out with her.
and they're and she's like, "These are my friends," and I hate it. I hate it. Why aren't these things horror creatures? This is why I hate the lore, because we're treated like the Five Nights at Freddy's lore treats all of this like, okay, these are all victims and stuff, and like it's like not their fault as much that like that they're evil and stuff. But you can't do that for a movie like this because it just seems stupid. Are they scary or are they friends? And they'll keep flip flopping on this. And it makes it incredibly infuriating because if you're
Yeah,
going to make this scary to me, then it has to be scary the whole time.
they could have done like a vengeful spirit type thing, but instead they went for a route that when the kids died, they don't remember anything now, like as the animatronics, and so they only
Mm-hmm.
go by the pictures on the wall, which is why we had so much emphasis on pictures.
Yep.
And there's a picture on the wall with all the kids with the yellow Springtrap bunny suit, which the killer would wear, like all holding hands. So they're like, "Oh, he's chill. Everyone else is bad." Um,
Such a
and yeah,
such a
it's just
stupid.
mm.
This is
And
this
so
is
after that, they make friends. They Does anything happen, or is it just straight to the next night?
um I think we have him take the realization, and this is one of those things where like this is a tell not show, where he literally just looks at the animatronics and he's like, "Oh my God, you're all dead kids."
Yeah, that was really like a the girl just had like a sixth sense type deal
Yeah.
that we just say had to accept. it wasn't like any kind of like gradual, like it was, she can just see the dead kids.
It wasn't even like portrayed as a shock. It wasn't like
No.
any character was like, oh my god, like wow, that's a
Yeah.
thing. No, it's literally just, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so the next night they go, and then, the one thing that does happen before
Mm-hmm.
is that our main character Michael goes back to the pharmacy to get more sleeping pills because the cop had taken the others away.
Yeah, because she doesn't
Um,
like that he's sleeping on the job.
yeah, and because those people broke in. Um, and so cop taking sleeping pills. He goes to the pharmacy to get new ones. The pharmacist, he's like, you know what helps for me? Warm milk with a little bit of chamomile tea. And he just snatches the pills out of his hand and walks away. And the pharmacist just like, man, what an
What an
asshole.
asshole. Yeah.
That was the single best line in this whole movie.
He was an asshole in that moment.
It
That
was
was
such
really
good delivery.
inconsiderate
It
of
was
him.
so genuine. He sounded just so like hurt.
Why would he do that though?
Yeah. Um my At about, I'll say the hour mark, my notes take a severe dive in quality,
uh,
in where I'm taking severely less notes,
no, I get it.
because there's like, before I was taking a lot because there was so little happening that I had time. Let me put it that way.
Mm,
And the second
yeah,
part, I'm
yeah.
like, oh my god, look, it's the part of the movie that it's named after. Finally, after an hour.
Yeah.
So I tried to pay attention.
Yeah. We finally reach night 4, and by this point there's really not much conflict with the custody battle happening anymore. We
No, that's kind
see
of dropped.
we see the daughter, no, the sister and Michael are both going back to the place, but this time the cop is joining them, and Vanessa's so friendly with the animatronics too. And there's a lot that happens on day 4, but do you want to talk about your favorite moment? The moment that
Yeah.
David was really pissed at?
Yeah. Um So there was a moment in this movie, and I do just want to say, a trigger warning for those people that are more sensitive to some kind of graphic things. So night 4, they went in, of course, yeah, like you said, brings his little sister, and then she goes with the animatronics into like the big open room, and like the night before, he cleaned it all out and stuff, so it's all like nice and like ready for people to be in,
Yeah.
and they build a fucking fort to like 2000s like edgy bad pop music in a montage. What the fuck?
The animatronics were stacking chairs and tables and like doing handiwork to make a basically a pillow fort.
They were playing and making a castle, dude.
And
Like
keep in mind, the context that they were given as to why they were doing this was, it'll help give us power so we can imagine who killed my brother.
was that why they built the fort? I thought she just wanted to build a fort.
I mean literally what happened right before that is Vanessa and the girl are all talking about like, yeah, these kids are like a little bit supernatural and stuff. And he just goes, "Hey, do you think you could talk to them about like telling me who killed my brother?" And she goes, "Yeah, I can do that, but first,
But
we could solve an everlasting mystery about one of our dead family members that destroyed our family. But
do you guys
I
want to see if the cotton candy machine still works? like
see the skee ball throw."
like that's the level of just like, hey, I know your brother's like dead and all, and you've been like worried about this and popping sleeping pills every night, but ski ball. Um, yeah. So they build a fort. He goes back to Sleepy Bye at work.
Yeah.
And then in that dream, he like is at the picnic table now with his family, and his brother is there with them instead of being abducted.
Yeah.
And the other kids that he saw previously are there behind him too. And he's like, what the fuck is the deal? And they're like, the kids go, you can have this dream every night and be with your brother again every single night, but you have to give us your little sister. And he's like, okay. And then 30 seconds later, he's like, wait, never
No.
mind. And then they're gone. Too late. Sorry.
Yeah. This was which night was this? I sort of got confused around this time.
I think
This might have
I don't care.
yeah.
I don't.
I think okay, right before this. I think that might have been night 5 or so. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but right before this there's sort of a violent or not even a violent moment, but there's like uh okay, so they're hanging out with the people and all that, and then by some random coincidence when they're jamming out after building the fort, she touches Bonnie's guitar and it explodes and
Yeah,
she gets casualtied or whatever.
yeah. It shocks the little girl real bad,
So
and
that's the end of the night of night 4,
yeah,
and
and then
they're
the
just
cop
like, okay,
freaks out on him like way too bad,
oh my
and he's
god.
like, "If you ever hurt her again, I will shoot you."
Not even if you
And
hurt her.
that's
There,
just what she says flat out.
she goes from being like, no, it's okay, that stuff kind of happens, I'm sorry that
Hmm.
happened, and then he
Yeah,
goes, hey, you looked sort of afraid in this one room we were in, what is that about? And then she immediately goes, if she's ever here again, I will fucking shoot you. Whoa.
yeah. We just jumped. I have no idea. Like I was like, oh my god, like sitting in
there's
my like my chair at home watching this.
there's legitimately no like gradual to any of this. It's either 0 or it's 100 every single time.
Yeah, and then I guess it's the night after he. Oh, you know what? In that dream sequence where he's like freaking out and they're like, "Hey, but we're going to take your little sister." And he's like, "Okay, but no." Then he gets attacked by all the kids and gets like way injured.
Oh yeah, he
And
like they
then
all just like drive by
yeah.
him.
And so he's all injured. He has cuts and like whatever
They cut his
cuts
tendon,
and
I think.
lacerations all over his body. The cop comes in and she patches him up, takes him to like a police place, just patches him up. And
Yeah.
then we learn that this cop, Vanessa, is the daughter of William Afton, who was the guy who murdered the kids, who is that counselor, and who also had kidnapped our main character, Michael's little brother, in
Mm.
which all this information like she just had all of it and she knew about his brother and like all of this stuff and she
Mhm.
just could have told him and didn't.
I
And like
think
I
that's
mean we
the
touched
biggest
on that
problem with
before
her.
and it's just why.
Yeah. It's infuriating how she knows so much and we're supposed to see that she like trusts this and like we're supposed to believe she's a nice character, but every time there's like some piece of information that would have been good to know, she says, "Oh yeah, I knew about that" afterwards.
Yeah, it's literally like when you talk to a 6-year-old and you like tell them something new, they're like, oh, I knew that. Like that's her only reaction in this movie. um so they do that whole shtick. He freaks out. He's like, you knew? She's like, yeah. And then they kind of get over it
Yeah, they do
because
get
then they're
over it
back to working together right away.
and they're just like, "We have to
Um,
get back to Freddy's." And
yeah, and
then we
so then
see
yeah,
sorry, do
we
you
see.
want to
Well, I want to talk about Golden Freddy.
Okay, I'll let you. I'll let you.
um, so as this is all happening, we cut back to the house where the girl is sitting with the aunt, or the aunt's
Mhm.
sitting and the girl's just in the room, and the girl hears something outside the door, and she peeks out, and Golden Freddy, the whole fucking animatronic that is just standing in the goddamn hallway of her house.
Mhm.
And then they killed or knocked out the aunt. I'm assuming they
She's
killed her.
sleeping.
She's sleeping. And then they're like, all right, it's time to play. Come on. And so they take his little sister away to go
In an
play. And she's
Uber.
like, how are we going to get there? And so they call a taxi. But Nolan, Freddy Fazbear can't fit in a taxi. What are they going to do?
Well, luckily Golden Freddy can.
Oh my God. The taxi
It's
driver doesn't care.
he just sees like Golden Freddy and he just goes like, "Man, I get the fucking weirdest people."
Yeah, he like looks in the mirror, screams, and then turns around and has no reaction. He's
No
just like,
remorse.
ugh, and then just drives away.
Yeah. Isn't
Um,
that trafficking?
I mean, is Freddy? How old is Freddy?
Well, he was like 10 in the 80s.
He can be a guardian. That's fine. I trust him.
But is anyone kidnapping anyone then just like a guardian to you?
Ooh, well, but it's the soul of a child, though.
This is the Michael Jackson defense.
Okay, counter argument. Have the children matured at all while they've been ghost sitting in this goddamn Freddy Fazbear's pizzeria for like 30 years? Do you think they're still just into like puppies and stuff, or do they want to like go to war?
The animatronics have like one acne spot.
That's what I'm saying. Do they have bolts that they have to pop? God, I don't even. Yeah, so Golden Freddy's at the house, and then they get in this stupid goddamn cab and drive to Freddy Fazbear.
Pretty
Um,
bad.
you can take it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
From here, we have sort of this girl being led to her doom, but most of the time she's just thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna hang out with my friends." Golden Freddy takes her to the front entrance and then immediately disappears. So like, I think it's really great how he was then in the cab, knowing he
Yeah,
could just disappear at any time. I like
you
to
just need
think
convenience.
I like to think that Golden Freddy and that kid, most of the time, because that's the only time we see him ever. I like to think that
Mhm.
every other time he's sort of just haunting the establishment.
Yeah, in the game lore, we never get Golden Freddy is like an animatronic suit with no endoskeleton, so he can't move at all. And so there's a soul
Yeah.
trapped in it, and he just can't move. And so that part, I'm assuming people are gonna get pretty mad about pretty fast because it's a really blatant like he was just a crouching like suit on the floor for like
Mm-hmm.
years and years and years. And also, um, earlier you said there was in the games there's no like motives for the animatronics too. It's there's supposed to be some like loose connection where your character is like family to the guy that killed all the kids. So that's why they hate the fuck out of you.
Oh yeah, aren't we playing as another Michael Afton?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's either in some of the games you're the family member of the kids and the other games you're just the guy that killed the kids
Mm.
and you're going back to burn the evidence.
Yarg yarg.
But in this movie they don't touch on any of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, like we were saying before, none of the stakes are raised, and all the things that people enjoyed from the movies aren't there. And so, the only thing that you have is a bad Blumhouse horror movie with like skins.
I That's really fair. This is essentially as if you were playing Call of Duty with like a Homelander skin and you said you were watching The Boys.
No, yeah,
It,
this is a Gmod horror movie, is what this is.
I'll agree with that. I mean, Blumhouse loves to talk about how they're able to make a movie with such a low budget to save money. And, I can see that. It's
Like, I don't think anyone's gonna deny that this movie will make bank. It's definitely gonna
mhm.
make money.
It made 20
But
million on Thursday.
wow.
Mhm.
And it's already on streaming too immediately, which I think is really it's a really odd choice, but I think it's something we're going to be seeing more and I'm not really upset about it.
Yeah, there were more of that maybe come 2020. Famously, they did
Mhm.
that with Dune, which really tanked its box office.
Yeah, and Disney Plus I remember always had the like premieres you had to pay like $20 for.
30
Um
bucks if I remember for Black Widow.
yeah, something like that. Yeah. Which I don't like that, but if I have the subscription service already and you're offering me the movie for free like on release day, I think that's great. That's a fantastic option and it's definitely going to be able to boost new movies to more people.
Yeah. I think it boosts movies to new people. We can talk about a new movie that's on streaming right now when we get to movie news. I think you might be interested.
Ooh.
Going back
But yeah,
to
yeah, back to that.
Yeah, back to the
Um
story. We instantly are sort of given this MacGuffin for like, okay, here's how we can hurt the animatronics without like killing them because we can't kill them for sequel reasons. Uh,
yeah,
they're given stun guns and they're given tasers and they're given stuff like that, and they're just like, yeah, if you shock them with this, they'll stop moving for a little bit. So
it'll
the
disrupt them.
Yeah. So Vanessa and Michael go into the place and they just sort of sneak. First of all, Vanessa isn't there at the start. She's like, I don't want to
Mm,
go there. I'm spooked. It's
yeah.
scary. Uh, we see Michael climb through some vents to get to them, and then he just sneaks up on Freddy and Bonnie or whatever while they're trying to turn Abby, the sister, into an animatronic so that they can be together forever. Um,
Mhm.
so he just sort of like I guess stealth missions his way into the room and saves her. He at one point was going to be turned into an animatronic, but he was able to escape through information that we were given in the beginning of the movie. But like, how would he have known that there was a loose bolt?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like information that he's given. It's just we see a security guard at the very start of the movie before those intro credits,
Yeah.
um, where he's trying to unscrew the bolts on this chair that's about to grind his face up. And then later in the movie, we find out it's just a pin that you have to pull out, which, like, man, that sucks. Like, that guy was so close to not
Oh
being
yeah.
turned into mincemeat, and he just did.
Quick
Um,
question.
yeah.
We're supposed to believe that these like when you're killed and you're put in these suits, you'll come to inhabit them and you'll sort of be put into this dream world. And we see at least 5 people get killed this way and they're like put into that suit situation, but none of them are haunting the location.
Well, the idea is that the children were killed and then stuffed in the suits. And then now the animatronics, whenever they see someone, they assume it is an endoskeleton without its suit on. So they try to shove you into the suit. And
Mm,
so I don't know if it's necessarily now you're haunting it, but your face is now incorporated with metal suit parts and you are dead.
that's fair. Is that the video game's reason or the movie's reasons? Because the movie, it really just makes it seem like, oh, we should fucking kill you.
In the games.
Okay. I always love that part of the games. More
Yeah,
of
in the
like the
games,
first
it
4 games
was.
I loved.
Yeah, because they stuffed you in the suit, and that was an integral part. And so later on, when they show a pile of bodies and all the victims that the animatronics have killed, they're just literally in a pile in the room. And that the security guard we see from the very beginning, we just see his face all torn up on the ground. So like, he didn't even get a mask adhered to him or anything at all. It was
Hmm.
just he got his face ground up, and then I guess the grinder just lifted back away.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we're supposed to believe that Vanessa moved the bodies, um, because I don't think the animatronics would have. Maybe I
Maybe.
don't really know.
Chica's
But
like hard on OCD if you read the lore. She had to
yeah,
replace them.
but it was a tick. She needed to. Um, But then, so they have this whole final confrontation with the bots. Then Afton shows up, big bad guy. We get the
And
reveal that
he's in his little spring trap
yeah, he's
suit.
in his little yellow bunny suit. And then at that point, after he talks for a minute, we get the reveal. He takes his mask off that it's the counselor from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, but there's no big reveal music swell or moment or anything like that. It's just he takes his masks off and then continues talking.
More importantly, we saw this character at the very beginning briefly. Why would we like this is a problem that was in like Friday the 13th too. The first Friday the 13th where we just see the killer in like a one-off random scene in which we're given no importance to them, and then it's supposed to be some big shot when we or shock when we see them later. Why do I care? Why do I care that it's this counselor guy? It's not like a big betrayal or anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, "Oh, I know that guy." Like, that's literally it.
It's
We're
the
given
Scooby
nothing else.
Doo.
Yeah,
It's old man
which is ironic,
Periwinkle.
being him, he used to be Shaggy twice. Um,
Zoinks, man, you're gonna
really,
die.
man. Um, so he does that whole reveal, and then God, what is it? And then at that point, he
Vanessa
starts
comes
fighting
in.
with his daughter. Vanessa's
Yeah.
kinda fighting back with him. He stabs his daughter, which is really cold, but then while stabbing his daughter, Or no, he's choking. Sorry, he's choking his
Choking the
daughter to death.
Wait,
While
is he choking
choking
the
his
daughter?
daughter, he sees a little girl going to put a picture on the wall. So he stops choking his daughter and goes to go stop the little girl via stabbing, and
Mm-hmm.
instead then goes back to stab his daughter to death.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this
Or
guy's pretty sick.
I think the main timeline was he was choking William, and then he saw what Abby was doing, and he was going to go kill her, and then Vanessa stepped in. I think that was her big moment where she came in, and then she got stabbed.
No, he was choking Vanessa up against the machine,
Oh, well,
and then he stabbed her up against the machine.
then I think I'm just a stupid man.
She just didn't move, like an idiot.
She's just like, I'll just wait here until you come back.
No, literally. Yeah, so then she gets stabbed, she's out of commission basically for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
The little girl puts the picture up that makes the animatronics remember that Afton's the one that murdered them. They get angry, and what do they even do?
The cupcake lunges at him, bites
Yeah.
a little bit of the suit, and for some strange reason, that enacts the entire spring lock mechanism on these suits, which we were told, yeah, they're really old suits, so they like puncture. But like, why was that the incident that necessarily caused it? Because we're supposed to believe they were really, really sensitive from other stuff
they're
we had
just
shown.
touchy.
But then it like he had been so mobile in the suit and that's touching him. So that didn't cause it. But the second you like tear a little bit of the fabric, it does.
Yeah, he got shot. And that
he
didn't
did get shot.
yeah, Vanessa shot him.
But
And that didn't
happen.
affect the spring locks at all. But the cupcake biting him did, I guess. So whatever.
Cupcake for the
and
win.
in the games, a lot of emphasis is put on the spring lock suits and stuff in multiple like different places. But in this movie, again, the problem with doing a movie on such a big and long running franchise like this is that we can't get all those lore bits about the spring lock suit that murders you when you get in it into this like hour and 45-minute movie, because that would take like 5. And that's in a movie this short, that's a chunk.
Yeah, they even try to put as much lore stuff as they can. Right as we see the spring lock mechanism come up, we have William Afton's character say like his famous line from the game, which is like, "I always come back." But like, what does that mean in this scenario? When has he come back?
We have no context for him to say that whatsoever, besides people to go, "Oh my god, he said the thing."
Yeah,
and
he said the thing is all over this.
And it's supposed to be like, okay, maybe they'll do a sequel, but like, are they really going to do a sequel? Come on.
I'm not going to put it past them. I'm really not.
With how long it was in development, I don't know, but either way,
it depends on if it makes bank. I'm projecting they'll do a sequel if it makes more than 300 million.
I think they'll do a direct to streaming.
This felt like a direct to streaming, didn't it?
It felt like it could have been, yeah, for sure.
Like, it's like...
Well, it was, technically, but...
Technically, it was. It felt as if... We've made this comparison before about YouTube originals. This felt as if, like, YouTube wanted to make a YouTube original with their entire budget.
Yeah, this was a YouTube Red that just got too old. And they just, like, kept working on it. And there's like, YouTube Red's not around anymore? Fuck, I guess we just gotta like, is Blumhouse around? And so, this whole movie just, because of how much internet culture is surrounding Five Nights at Freddy's, it's very hard to separate it from that. And so, in being a horror movie where you do have those funny little moments, those funny moments take away from every other horror aspect you have in this movie, where I was already having trouble being intimidated by these big, like, cuddly looking animatronics.
Yeah.
And that's why I think if they did Five Nights at Freddy's 2 with the metal animatronics, they could have done much better, because it was metal animatronics. One of them was mangled up. There was more of them, and there was like a variety in kind of what they could do.
They did have one reference to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 in this, and I think it's probably some of the best horror in this movie. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, did you mean the Balloon Boy, or did you mean the
Yes,
Balloon Boy part, or
Balloon
did you
Boy.
mean the Balloon Boy part, or the part where Balloon Boy jump scared you? Because I missed it after the fourth time, but then the fifth time I saw it.
It's quite a lot, but I that I'm not the first time I was scared. That got me for sure.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
as
only
in like
thing
a
that
jump
got me.
scare. I think jump scares are just cheap though, but like yeah, the first time it got me, and every time after that, I'm like, oh, there he is. There's the
I
big man on campus. There
I
he
loved his
is.
little model.
He was cheesing. He was so happy.
Yeah.
Um, I just I really think if they went with the metal finish and everything, they could have made it just a lot more clunky and a lot more um dehumanizing the antagonist of the movie, I guess, to not so it feels like we don't know what's going to happen next. I think in a
Mm-hmm.
horror movie, that's very important that the audience gets that sense of suspense in where they don't know where the story is going.
Yeah,
And from an outsider perspective, I'm sure it probably would have been a little different. But let's be real, no one seeing this movie is from an outsider perspective. And
that's
even
true.
then, if someone that just likes horror movies is going to watch this, they're going to watch this and go, what the fuck is this? Like, and so it falls in this weird gray middle ground where it's not quite scary enough or gory enough or anything to be a good horror movie, but then it's not quite, silly enough or accurate enough to kind of be like a funny game movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just kind of in this funk.
Yeah. I think the biggest, in my opinion, if this movie was really going to succeed, it needed to stray away from trying to fill every plot point from the video game. It should have taken creative liberties, should have taken the soul of it, and not necessarily the full story. See what does work, what doesn't. Differentiate yourself from that timeline that's been created over years and years, and try to make something that fits a new genre you're going into, which is movies. Um, because I think it's one of the hardest things about video game adaptations is it doesn't take in the fact that like you're moving to a new medium. We're
Mhm.
seeing people are getting better with that. We have better stuff from The Last of Us. We have better stuff from the new Mario movie. But this didn't transfer the idea of, okay, you have an hour and 30. You do not have supplemental material. You do not have many games to work with. You have to get all that you want to tell in your story done in that time. That means you have to have it good. You have to have well written dialogue. And these are things that they just didn't take into account.
This was a movie where they had a checklist in front of them and they said, okay, how can we fit all of these things in?
We have to reference this, guys. Guys, we have to
Yeah.
reference this.
And it's just, I think if they approach this how, let's say how Insomniac approached Spider-Man.
Yes.
Um, Spider-Man is a legacy title, a legacy character. There's been, I think like almost a dozen Spider-Man games before them,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the movies and all the comics, of course. Um, and it's a huge character. And instead of readapting an established story that there already was, they got elements from all of those stories and combined the parts that they enjoyed into their own canon that now is it's like its own unique branch of Spider-Man universe
Yeah.
in that they created all on their own. And it's still faithful, to a degree, of course, but faithful and respectful to that original source material. In
Mm-hmm.
this movie being made by the creator, it still spit on his own original game. Now, the
Well,
first
let's.
Five Nights at Freddy's game wasn't like it wasn't anything groundbreaking here. It was an indie browser game,
Yeah.
but it's like it's still it's what he built over so many years, and that story he's been trying so hard to tell, and then he just vomited like the Target generic brand version of that whole story into this
Mm-hmm.
movie, and it completely ruined his credibility for it.
I'm gonna say that Scott hasn't been. This isn't like a George R. Martin type of situation where he's this master developer of a story over time. I think a lot of it is BSing his way through it, and I think that's fun. I think it's fun to sort of be like, oh, what can we add to this? I don't like things where the story is always planned out. I like it when it can be adaptive. However,
Yeah.
we've seen some ups and downs in the FNAF series. FNAF World, for example, the turn-based RPG was an interesting addition to the story.
That one was
Uh,
pretty neat.
yeah, I thought it was funny.
It
I
was it
like.
was neat for lore stuff. I'd never play it because God, you'd probably have to hate yourself. But it was neat for all lore stuff.
Yeah.
But the
Just I don't know.
yeah,
There's been so many different avenues that this has taken, and people have like been up and down about like his story, and he's like changed some of it before, where it's like, yeah, I said this once, and now it's not that. And there's like these weird comics that are all about it. The story has been everywhere, but I think just the biggest thing about this movie is this is, I guess, what we would consider taking it to the big leagues. You had this big opening night, and this is getting big word of mouth, and you have some decently big actors on it. This is where, if you're going to get your shit together, it would be right now. And they didn't, sadly.
I think this is a case of just like too little, too late.
Yeah.
Um, this movie was in development hell for a long time. I don't know exactly how long right now, but it was. I like we were saying before, it was announced years ago. And so that being said, the movie does have a certain age to it all. And while it's not necessarily like, wow, this is like leaking 2002, but it's not,
Do you want
it's
the date?
sure.
April 2015.
Wow.
8 years of development.
That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's almost as bad as The Flash.
The Flash has been, I think, 30 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know a movie that's more, so that's my next that's my next milestone.
Yeah, yeah.
Um I just think the movie got lost at some point in here when they transitioned it from R to PG-13. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it just definitely took a turn for the series, and I don't know. I think what it was is that Scott might have been too stubborn to change his original vision. Could be it.
I
Um,
think writing might have been a big thing. Maybe you
yeah,
could have like talked about the aspect of I don't know, this might have been filming during the writer's strike. They might have been trying to get some rewrites done at the time, but they got stuck with one script. I'm not sure, that's purely speculation. I don't even think that's true, speaking of when trailers for this came out, actually. I don't know, just not great writing, not
yeah,
great
it's not.
structuring of the plot, not great dialogue.
This
What are you gonna
movie
do?
was pushed out in every regard. Um, yeah. Um, so
Okay,
I
we
mean,
might
yeah,
just keep going
we
on.
didn't even wrap up the movie, but the end of the movie is Michael Afton. So the cupcake bites him. Springlock suit goes off. He goes ooh ee ah and like falls to the ground and like the most like theater kid like oh I'm dying like
Mm-hmm.
action in the world. It's just not convincing at all.
The place starts
Um,
falling apart.
yeah, for whatever fucking reason,
Too
and the
much power.
animatronics drag him away. Too much power. Um, drag him away as the main characters escape,
Mm-hmm.
and they grab Vanessa bleeding on the floor and get out of there. We see Michael Afton getting put in a closet, and they shut the door. And then next, we see our main character Michael back at the hospital visiting Vanessa with his little sister.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, you're the only reason we got out of there, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you." She was a prick. She knew the person, she knew her dad killed your little brother for like a week and didn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to be very honest here. I do not think that Michael would be as forgiving if she was not very attractive.
No,
I think there'd be charges.
I think you're right. God, like, all right, let's imagine Vanessa is Robert De Niro. This would not have happened. He wouldn't have went to Robert De Niro in the
Oh,
hospital.
wait. Taxi Driver De Niro or Meet the Fockers De Niro?
Meet the Fockers De Niro.
Oh, no chance.
No chance.
No chance.
Like I don't understand why the fuck he did that at all. I get they wanted to have a little like, oh, that's good. They can connect after, but
Yeah.
whatever. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And I guess the little girl, she's like talking to more people or like doing better in school or
That's, I
something like
think,
that.
the funniest thing. This is a horribly traumatic experience, and right after, we literally have exposition teacher go, "She's now the most talkative kid in the class. Whatever you're doing, it's really helping out."
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah. And then we go
oh.
back home and she's like, "Man, I really miss my friends." There's a drawing of them on the fridge, like pinned up. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Can we go back and like see them sometime?" And Michael just like pauses for like a good 5 seconds, like, and then he just learns the one answer you can give a kid that will solve all your problems, which is just a maybe.
Yeah, he said that's the only time my theater laughed. Was just like, "Hey, can we go back?" Just everybody's just like, mostly the adults are like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Yep. God, man. So this movie overall, I think it was as faithful as they could have been without encompassing every single game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a severe, like, just mistake to make it PG-13 versus R. And they, like I said before, they just really should have done different models than the first bulky, stupid Five Nights at Freddy's 1 models. It just
Yeah.
really tanked this movie, along with the bad writing, jumpy camera work with a lot of needless shots that I didn't need, that were way too fast to even give me anything.
Huh, that's weird
Um,
because I thought the camera work in this was maybe one of the best aspects of it. It wasn't always incredible, but I thought the coloring was often very or very pretty. I thought there were some creative shots in it and I never really noticed anything bad about it. But what were you
I
noticing?
I thought the coloring was fine, but I really didn't like. And there were a few moments where the editing was really good, like a door would slam or something, and like
Mhm.
something else would open, and it just lined up really well.
Yeah.
But besides that, I noticed a lot of like hand camera stuff, mostly when he was like out in the woods.
Yeah,
Um,
I get what you mean.
and it was just, it wasn't bad, but it was noticeable consistently.
Mm.
And so then once I started to notice it, I saw it everywhere. And then the only
Mm.
times where I didn't see shaky cam is when they were on like a track or something like that, where like they just can't, or it was stationary. And while I understand, while like they want to move and be free, and just, with the hand cam is a lot easier in a lot of regards, it just added to that YouTube Red low production quality feel of it for me. And I
Mm.
just really didn't enjoy it. And it felt like I got a lot of shots that just were needless, and just like at the beginning, the very start of the movie, Michael's at the mall and he's talking to this lady at the ice cream shop. And we
Yeah.
get this weird like point 0.5 angle, really close up to her, but kind of like looking down at her shot
Oh
for like a
yeah.
second and a half. And then we're just back to him for no reason. And there was a lot of stuff just like that, where I was like,
Uh-huh.
why the fuck did I need to see that? What was that for? And like, it was just a changing the camera angle because were like, okay, we're looking at him too long. Let's look at something else. And
Yeah.
there was no reason behind it aside from let's switch it up.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that might be um pretty good. They sort of just need something to fill the time and they did whatever they
Hmm.
could. But what's weird is when they did linger on shots, that's when they did their best. When the
Hmm.
longer the shots were, the better they were. Especially since they have a lot of stuff with moving and reframing that I really
Yeah.
liked. But yeah, I'm sure that there's just one editor that's just looking at the shot list and he's going, "Man, this is bullshit. What if I made it worse?"
Yeah, he was doing it. He was halfway through and he was like, man, fuck this. And then he just deleted the whole file and restarted and just started fucking it up. But like, God, this, yeah, I don't know. I just really think that this movie suffered in a lot of ways in regards to quality, and it's probably just because of that really long development time.
Yeah, I do
and,
think that
and
could be a
the
big part.
and the R to PG-13 cut, because I'm sure they had stuff recorded. Well,
Yeah. Well, no,
yeah.
They probably
They probably
did.
had some.
And then a lot of it was VFX work, because there's
Yeah.
obviously a scene where we see a woman chopped in half by Freddy
Mhm.
Fazbear, but, like,
Yeah.
the biggest thing they do to change that is silhouette, and then when you see one part of the body, it's in a shadow and there's no blood, and, like, just stuff like that where it's the same image, but it's
Yeah.
less, like, shocking.
It's like, yes, she gets cut in half, but all we really see is like a pair of jeans and shoes on the floor. Like we don't really see like her like guts or nothing like that. It's just it
Yeah.
is now half a person. So with all that stuff in mind, um and just with a lot of stuff they didn't include from the games, just like the music, just some normal like jump scare sounds, just iconic stuff that they didn't include.
Mhm.
Um I just think it's gonna be a 2 for
Mm.
me. Because it's a kind of fun bad movie, but you get to the fun bad, I'll say, almost over an hour in. And that's a
Mm.
little bit too much to be asking me to sit down and watch through to get to like the funny animatronic bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. For me, Jacksepticeye didn't like this movie, so I also don't like this movie. Um, he said explicitly he's going to watch the movie, and then he just said didn't really like it. Um,
Yeah, I'd be scared to say anything more too.
was I'll give this. I came in having rated it a 2, but the more I think about it, the more pain I get at just mostly, I think, laziness. I think a lot of this can be summed up as laziness. Just, okay, we're going to put this there and that'll make them happy. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to
Yeah,
give this a 1.5, I think.
that's fair. I think that's fine.
I still think there are
Um,
redeemable parts in it, but, you have to search for them. Me and David are going to be at Austin Film Festival. We're going to see The Holdovers, but that also is just releasing this weekend, so it's not like we're getting a early review. Me and Nick might be getting early tickets for Napoleon, though. I'll let you
mhm,
know on that.
yeah. All right.
No, that's it.
So that's been the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Make sure to go follow our socials on the link tree in the podcast description on our page.
Yes, sir.
This has been Wham.
You've been whammed.
See you guys next week.